Hey, I'm Pat Porter. This is going to be the first of many property reviews that you're going to hear or see. I'm doing this kind of in a unique way, and I'll explain that. This property review is going to be 360 acres, Ouachita Parish, Louisiana. Now, the way I'm doing these reviews is primarily for podcast, but I'm actually using my laptop and recording it as I go on video, so that if you wanted to see what I'm seeing as you're listening to this, you can do that by following the video at our YouTube channel. Now, we've got a couple YouTube channels, but the one that you'll be able to see these property reviews is going to be RecLand Realty. Now, we also have a YouTube channel called RecLand Talks. That's going to be more of a behind-the-scenes look at who we are and talking about the land business in general. But if you want these property reviews, they're going to be at the RecLand Realty YouTube channel. This particular property, let me just go here, again, is located in Ouachita Parish, Louisiana. It's 360 acres that is primarily a development tract. The owner has put it on the market in sort of a unique way, and I encouraged him to do this, and I think you'll find it's going to be helpful too. 360 acres is a big tract for a large rural home site or development in our part of the country here in northeast Louisiana. So I encourage the seller to consider dividing the tract somewhat. And I don't mean subdividing it and laying it out for residential lots, but I mean just breaking it up just a little bit to bring more buyers into the picture and to kind of reach out to people that want a large rural home site but don't want 360 acres of ground that's going to cost them over $5,000 an acre. That's just a little strong for most people. So what we've got here, and if you're following on the video, you'll be able to see the map that I'm looking at as we talk about this. This tract is what you're seeing, 360 acres, and he's actually divided it up in this way. There's two 65 plus or minus acre tracts along the Blacktop Road, and both of these parcels right here are going to be suitable for home sites, large acreage, rural home sites, heavily wooded, some merchantable timber, both pine and hardwood. Both of these 65 odd acres, and I say 65 odd or 65 plus or minus, is because they're going to have to be surveyed. You know, it's going to be 65 to 75, really depending on what the buyer wants. But for conversation, we'll call them 65 acre parcels here. They both are going to have approximately 1,000 feet of frontage along Swartz Fairbanks Road. Let me show you Swartz Fairbanks Road and just kind of give you a big bird's eye view of this tract in relation to the world here. So those of you that are looking at the video, you'll see the property is located between Swartz and Sterlington in this area northeast of Monroe, Louisiana. It is actually in the Sterlington School District, just barely, which gives it a lot of strength there. That's a highly desirable school district, and it's just inside the cutoff where the Sterlington and Ouachita schools are separated. There's a street down here called Topic Street, and that's actually, from my understanding, the cutoff, and this property is just north of that, being in the Sterlington School District. So you can see it here on the map if you're following on the video. Northeast of Monroe, situated between Swartz and Sterlington area. You can see this right here is Frenchman's Bend. This is Black Bayou over here. Gives you a good idea of where it's located. It's just a few minutes from the interstate, a few minutes from everything in Monroe, and of course right here in Sterlington Schools, and actually just a few minutes from Highway 165, the other major traffic artery in and out of the Monroe area. So let me zoom it back in here a little bit and we'll talk about the tract. So it's divided into three pieces. Two tracts about 65 acres each along the blacktop frontage, and both of these are for rural home sites. It's going to be loaded with saw timber. I have been on this track. I've been all over it personally. This west portion right here, where the two 65 acre pieces lay against the blacktop, is the best part of the tract. It's the higher ground, and it's got pine saw timber ready to be cut right now. Pretty substantial volume. I can't give you an exact volume because I don't have an exact inventory on it, but it's going to be strong. It's all pine saw timber. There's actually some hardwood saw timber in there as well. It's going to be, log size, red oak and white oak. Not that you'd want to cut all that down, but there is a lot of value there in the timber, and some of it needs to be cut to create a home site, as well as take some of that money that's on the stump and put it in your pocket. You'd be able to cut a substantial volume of timber out of there and still have a heck of a nice, heavily wooded tract that's gonna have deer. I've seen turkeys on the place. I've seen hog tracks. There's a lot of wildlife habitat supporting this whole tract. You're gonna have deer on your property. It's just going to be that way right there. So you can cut a lot of timber and still leave it heavily wooded to have plenty of wildlife habitat and support. So you got the two 65-acre tracts here, the southern 65, the middle 65, and then what's remaining is about 290 acres. Most of it is in the back along this east side, but the seller has left a strip here about 600 feet wide that fronts the Blacktop Road to give access to this 290 acres. It could also be used as a home site on the front with 290 acres of recreational hunting land here that go with it. So there's a lot of diversity on this tract, but it's going to be for people that want a large rural home site. I mean, 65 acres and up is a big home site, and then this one that's the remaining parcel that's 290 acres, that's pretty good size rural home site tract. But there it is, Sterlington School District, great access. The utilities are there in place. This property could also be bought as a development tract if someone wanted to buy it to put in small residential lots. There's a lot of that going on in this area simply because of the Sterlington School District and the growth of that direction. So it's got some options for somebody that's looking for a big project. I'm going to switch it over here to the topo map and show you a little bit about the terrain out there. One thing about this country that you'll find in this area, it's flat. And when it's flat, that means that when we have prolonged wet weather, it gets wet. Meaning it's a swamp or flooded all the time? No, not at all. But it is flat, and it's going to hold water during prolonged wet weather. For those of you watching the video, you can see that here and see this whole area showing in topography is flat. And all of this back here on the east side is pretty sloughly. You can tell by the timber type, you can tell by the ground cover that it stays wet much longer than the west side. And of course, you can tell by the topography map here that this west side is better ground. So we can see that on the topo. Let me show you, those of you that are watching the video, you can see here an actual survey plat of the property that had the flood zone digitized on it as well. And you'll see exactly what I was talking about. This area right here on the south and west side of the tract is in flood zone X, meaning it's above the 100-year floodplain. So the bottom 65-acre parcel is the better of the two, according to the topo and the floodplain map here. And so the seller has priced it just a little higher than this other 65-acre piece. It's in flood zone A. Now, what I've come to understand, and the seller actually sent the information to me from an engineer, is that even though this is in flood zone A along the blacktop here in this area, it is just barely in it, meaning according to the engineer in the email I read, that a pad site for a home is only going to have to be about 2 feet elevated from the current topography or the current level right now for it to be out of the flood zone. So by the time a home site pad is built, you're almost at that 2 feet mark. So 2 feet is not a lot to build up to get it out of the flood zone into flood zone X. So that's good news for anyone wanting to put a home site on these parcels on this west side. It is not going to take much at all to get out of that, to build up, to get out of that flood zone. 1.5 to 2 feet of additional elevation is all that's going to take. This parcel down here, though, is already out, and it's in flood zone X, above the 100-year floodplain. It'll be good to go. So anyway, this is good information here, good visual information for those of you watching the video. Those of you listening, you just have to kind of follow me that the bottom 65 acres is out of the flood zone. The middle 65 acres is partially in the flood zone, but only by about 1.5 or 2 feet. So it's not going to take much effort at all to have a home built above the floodplain here. And honestly, that's what happens in this area anyway for most homes, because this whole area, this whole general part of the country right here is flat, and many pieces of it are going to be in flood zone A or AE. So I think that's about all I can tell you, other than some information about value. When I look at what else is for sale out in this part of the country, this tract is priced pretty well. It's actually probably priced lower than most. The problem with it is it's 360 acres. It's big. So the seller is asking a little over $5,000 an acre for the entire park, the entire tract, entire 360 acres. He's asking over $7,000 for the better 65-acre piece, and he's asking about $5,900 an acre for this better or this other 65-acre piece. So all of those prices are still, when you compare them to some other stuff that's actually for sale out there now, is lower. The problem is it's 65 acres and up, so the parcel size is big, and that's going to drive the total purchase price on up there a pretty good bit. So that's going to eliminate a lot of buyers from the market. But if you're looking for a development opportunity or a large rural home site that you're going to be able to enjoy recreational and hunting on activities on it, this is going to work, and you're in a very desirable school district here in Ouachita Parish. So that's the story. If you want to see more details on this tract, you can go to our website. Everything is there. There's going to be lots of pictures. I'm clicking through them right now. For those of you watching the video, there's a number of drone images, drone aerials, as well as some other pictures. There's some actual video of the property at ground level as well. And you'll see a lot of the details down here in the property description that we've already talked about, but you can look at them much closer there and get some detailed information. RecLand.net, 360 acres, Ouachita Parish, Louisiana is where you'll find all the information. Thanks for watching. Again, if you want to see the video, go to the RecLand Realty channel at YouTube. If you're just following on the podcast, there you have it. There'll be lots more property reviews coming, as well as market information on this particular podcast channel. So thank you for listening. We appreciate it. Bye.